While a lot of people like to play first-person shooters for the multiplayer and the competition, others, they're in it for the solo experience. What is up, everybody? Chaos here. Today, we're going to be looking at some of the best first-person shooter campaigns of all time. Now, for this list, we'll be talking about FPS games that offer a single-player campaign or a story mode, regardless of whether or not they have multiplayer available. And hopefully, you'll discover a new game with this list, and maybe it will be the thing that pushes you to try something that you've been putting off. So you let me know how you would rank these in the comments. Drop a like. Make sure you hit that sub button and turn on those notifications. And let's start off with Star Wars Republic Commando. I call this criminally underrated. It is. It's been getting a lot of retroactive praise in the recent years. A lot of it comes from us, which I'm not going to complain about. This Clone Wars era shooter took influence from games like Rainbow Six and Halo, and they perfectly balanced the running and gunning. It was slower, it was more methodical. There were moments that it was just like being an elite trooper. Now, every member of your squad had a distinct role. It's up to you to tell them what to do and how to do it, while also keeping yourself in one piece against an onslaught of enemies. Republic Commando is easily the best Star Wars FPS ever made, but it was a financial flop. It was released in 2005. It was an exclusive to the Xbox and the PC, but it also made the mistake of launching shortly after Halo 2, which was also exclusive to those platforms, which caused a lot of people to write it off as a copycat. Since then, the fans have made their voices heard, and Lucasfilm has actually ported it to modern hardware. Heck, there are even rumors that Respawn Entertainment's upcoming Star Wars FPS will be a spiritual successor to Republic Commando, which would make things just perfect in the world. The game is great. Even if you're not a Star Wars fan, I recommend giving it a try. It absolutely nails the balance between crazy shootouts and tactical planning. Before we move on, guys, speaking of being a Star Wars fan or pop culture or comics, do me a favor. Go check out Chaos Comics. The link is at the top of the description. If you enjoy comics, pop culture, anything to do with Marvel or anything like that, definitely go follow the channel. There are big things coming not only from that channel, but possibly some real-life Chaos comic stuff too, and I would love for you guys to be there on the journey as I document it. We'll talk more about it in the future. Next up, ULTRAKILL. Such an awesome name. Indie FPS. It made waves when it appeared on Steam a couple years ago, and it's only gotten better with updates. Now, it might be a little unfair to put it an early access game on this list, but it's good. It's really good. I don't think you can blame me. ULTRAKILL is a super fast-paced, ultra-violent shooter where you play as a robot running through various layers of hell while upgrading your weaponry and unlocking new abilities. Now, I know you're thinking Doom, right? Well, it was heavily inspired by games like Quake, but the verticality and the advanced movement options, they do remind me of Doom Eternal and Titanfall 2. It also features a combo system that gives you a grade based on your performance similar to character action games like Devil May Cry. It all comes together to create this amazing dance of violence and gore that is as ridiculous as it is cathartic, and there are a ton of challenges along the way. ULTRAKILL is still getting regular updates and new content. Pick it up on Steam right now. Run through it. It deserves way more recognition because it's really an awesome game. Let's go all the way back to 2007. BIOSHOCK. The spiritual successor to System Shock, which a lot of you probably never played, but if you did, you see the influence. BIOSHOCK quickly made a name for itself. It had an amazing story, a very unique setting, and you played as a dude who crash lands and accidentally finds an abandoned underwater utopia. How do you accidentally find that? But once you start exploring, you discover that it's not as abandoned as you thought, and it's going to be pretty difficult to escape in one piece. Now, it's less action-oriented than other games on this list, but that's part of what makes it so special. It relies on you to pay attention to the world you're in and to figure things out yourself while also piecing the story together and coming up with an escape plan. Now, the enemies, they're very intimidating, and the weapons, they can be a little dinky, but it all adds to the overall progression of the player's character, and it makes the beefy weapons all that more satisfying to use. BIOSHOCK's gameplay is excellent. The story is probably one of the best in gaming. Now, there's rumors of a total remake in works, and I have mixed feelings about it. I would love to see the game get recreated with modern tech, but the gameplay was nearly perfect. And I just hope whoever's in charge of the project, if it's real, understands what made the original actually work. Now, let's move over to the New Order. That's right, Wolfenstein. Talk about a game that came out of nowhere. Despite being a franchise that arguably invented first-person shooters as we know them, it was in a rough spot back in the early 2010s. The franchise, it had fallen off during the 2000s, and the series reboot, it was a flop in every sense of the world. However, Bethesda had hope, and they hired a studio known as Machine Games to create a new version of the story and universe. And what they came up with? It was amazing. The New Order tells a very serious, a very emotional story about an alternate world history where Germany won the Second World War and basically enslaved the entire planet, ruling it with an iron fist and a ton of heavily armed robots. But after waking up from a coma, an American soldier rallies a group of rebels as they start a campaign to take the planet back one country at a time. The gameplay is this blend of old school level design and treasure hunting with modern shooting mechanics and weapon upgrades, while the story, it's well written. It is, and it's beautifully presented. The rebooted franchise may have fallen off in recent years, but the New Order is an incredible game. And for me personally, it's one of my favorite alt history shooters of all time. Now, I know we can't have this list without at least one, right? Call of Duty Modern Warfare Remastered. You expected a COD game on the list, but you probably weren't expecting this one. Now, MWR garnered a lot of controversy when it released back in 2016. It's a shame because the game itself was really good. It's a near-perfect remaster of COD 4, which many consider to be the most important game of the franchise. Played as an American soldier and a British Special Forces agent, tried to hunt down an extremist group, threatening to start a new world war on behalf of the Russians. You guys know how it goes. The levels are extremely varied, and the story was presented in a very good way. Now, despite originally coming out in 2007, the gameplay of COD 4 aged extremely well, and it's still one of the best single-player experiences in the entire series. Modern Warfare Remastered got a lot of flack when it was released due to the fact that it was bundled with IW, which nobody wanted, and priced at a minimum of $80, which nobody wanted, but you can buy it by itself now, and it's cheap. The multiplayer may be dead, but the single-player, it's worth the money. Now, let's talk about a game that we haven't gotten the next game in a while. Metroid. Specifically, Metroid Prime that was released for the GameCube all the way back in 2002. Now, Prime was a huge transition for the franchise. It moved things from the 2D Metroidvania to 3D first-person shooting with a lot of exploration. This game perfectly translated things from one gameplay style to another, and some of the features, honestly, they hold up today, some of the visuals. I mean, if you look at this game, you would not have guessed it came out in 2002, 20 years ago. The shooting, it's intuitive. The controls are unique, but the main thing that sells Metroid Prime is the world. It's the world you live in. The aliens are interesting. There's a heavy emphasis on getting creative so you can do all the little secrets that help you along your journey. Many call this one of the greatest games ever made. I really can't argue with it. It's a mystery to me why Metroid Prime never hit the same heights as other Nintendo exclusive like Majora's Mask or Super Smash Bros., but it's a great game. Definitely should be played before Metroid Prime 4 comes out in 2035. Next up is a sad, sad game. Titanfall 2, I just got done playing it again. After the first Titanfall game had an extremely underwhelming campaign, I don't think anybody was expecting the sequel to be this good. Now granted, Respawn is made up of former Infinity Ward employees, so I guess that shouldn't have been too much of a shock, but Titanfall 2's campaign is way better than it has any right to be. You play as a pilot, an elite soldier, you're fighting a future conflict, you learn to bond with your new Titan companion. I mean, it's a story about love. Now throughout the game, you'll not only learn more about the universe you're fighting for, but also about the people within it and the loyal Titan that always has your back. Plus, the gameplay was good. Featured free-flowing combat, tons of advanced movement. I mean, sliding, double jumping, wall running. You can run through entire levels without touching the ground, or you can take it slow and kill every single last enemy you see without ever taking a hit of damage. That's not even talking about the Titan fights, which were epic. Titanfall 2, the campaign's on the shorter side. Can be finished in 3 to 4 hours if you're half decent at first-person shooters, but the experience, it was really good. Honestly, it's a replayable campaign. Next up is Black Mesa. Now, Half-Life 1 was one of the most important video games ever released. Not only did it help push first-person shooting forward, but it also showed off what was possible with video game storytelling and environmental design. I mean, given the fact that Half-Life came out in 1998, an official remake seems long overdue, but Valve themselves haven't done it. Instead, a team of passionate fans called the Crowbar Collective took it upon themselves to do a full remake of the original game in the new Source engine. Black Mesa was stuck in early access for a long time before finally getting an official 1.0 release in early 2020, and it was worth the wait. Many people consider this to be the definitive way to play Half-Life 1, and it perfectly adapted the original, made it fit with modern video game expectations. Certain levels are slightly changed to make them more engaging, while a handful of puzzles were made a bit more challenging. Enemy AI was also improved, and they even added some new story elements and dialogue that fit perfect. Black Mesa is an amazing experience. Whether you're a longtime fan of Half-Life or you've never played the original, you should do this one. Call me a poser, but I think it's the best way to play the original game. I know. Now, we got to talk about one of the saddest campaigns in video game history. Halo Reach. The final Halo game developed by Bungie. Now, Reach got a bit of flack for its multiplayer mode, but literally everything else about it was perfect. The campaign, Man, the story took place before Master Chief's saga. It showed players how the conflict between the humans and the Covenant started and what happened to the Spartan program before Master Chief came around. Reach's level design is closer to Combat Evolved than Halo 2 or 3. It had open environments with a clear way forward, and it allowed you to approach various combat scenarios with different strategies. Now, the gameplay wasn't the only great thing. The characters, they were some of the best in the franchise. The story stuck to you. It was engaging. It was heartbreaking. Once you got to the end of it, it ripped your heart out. Halo Reach has one of the best endings in any FPS game I've ever played, and honestly, you're heartless if you play through the whole thing without even getting a little bit emotional. The game aged beautifully, and since it's added to the Master Chief Collection, you have no excuses. And you definitely have no excuses for the last one on this list. Doom Eternal. Released in 2020 after a couple delays, it was heavily anticipated as the follow-up to the franchise's reboot. Doom 2016? Nearly perfect. People weren't really sure how ID Software was going to follow it up, but they did. Doom Eternal has been called one of the greatest first-person shooters ever made. I don't disagree. The gameplay was elevated to a whole new level, if that's even possible, in the story. It wasn't super interesting, but that's not what you were there for, so it's not a mark against it. The gameplay of Doom Eternal is some of the best I've ever experienced. You had a wide array of weaponry, a huge roster of enemies you had to pay attention to in order to learn their weaknesses. It was an incredibly difficult game, but once you figured it out and how everything flows and where all the buttons are, it's an addicting gameplay experience. It is. It's a fantastic game. It's a must-play for fans of first-person shooters, and despite it just being 2 years old, I put it at number 1 today. And there you have it. Those are some of the greatest FPS campaigns of all time. I do want to give an honorable mention. I have to do this, and it probably should have made the list. And that belongs to Call of Duty Infinite Warfare. That campaign is one of the best Call of Duty campaigns of all time as well. So I had to throw that in there just for you guys. Like I said, if you enjoy comic books, pop culture, or anything like that, go give Chaos Comics a follow as well. The link is at the top of the description. I'll see you soon.